and I just had like a brain fart there. I couldn't remember what I wanted to say. So now that I'm going to talk about a World Wars project from start to finish. So, and I'm just going to use the agenda, not necessarily that's helpful for you to see, but it helps me go through day to day so I can explain it to you. So we start off with an entry event, and the entry event was this video, and we literally sat through, and it's a choose your own adventure video. I don't know if you know remember the books when you were a kid, where you turn to this page.
Yeah.
Well, this is done on YouTube, and it's a silly video about, who are they? Chad, Matt, and Rob, 3 office guys, and one guy has a treasure map, and it's like, the production value of it is pretty good, it's really well done, but it's like the cheesiest video ever. But you go through, like this first one is 6 minutes long, and then you have to make a choice. And so, we stop the video and go to the class, what do you guys want to do? And they all start yelling, and we click one, we choose it, and it's a dead end, and we go back to the other. So, it literally took about 30 minutes to go through this, and do the video, and the big catch for them then is, this is what you're going to do. You're going to make a choose your own adventure video about World War I and World War II. So that was our hook, because we knew we wanted something that they'd really get excited about. And so we showed them an example of it, got them excited. Then we did the essential questions, which we did in the Google Doc, and at that point have all the standards in there so they can ask questions about the standards. Also, on what they wanted to do, we did follow that up with group contracts, and because these guys are sophomores and they've done it lots of time, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on that. Again, when you're doing this the first time, you probably are only going to get through that entry event essential questions in one day. Next day, group contracts. Also, we have, because we're a combined class, we have over 2 hours for them, so we have more time to do in one day. And then, once they're done with the group contracts, go to a project management log, they start their research. That's kind of our first 2-hour day. Next step, going back to the essential research, or the essential questions, always bringing them back to those. Oh, and we have them, so we sort of take them from the Google Doc and right up here on paper, our key ones and our main ones. Go through those. After that, because we knew this was going to be, they couldn't really make the project without knowing the content first, we really preloaded the standards. So standard number 3 was the causes of World War I, and they had to work on and do that. They also had a map assessment. So they're working on that, work time primarily on day 2. The next day, so we didn't want it to be just doing all the standards and for them not to see the connection with the project. So I don't know if you saw in our space in the hallway, they have on that big white wall, they were drawing out their things. So the next day, first thing we did in class, now that they've done research on the cause of World War I, we went out there and said, okay guys, where's the decisions that you saw yesterday in the content? What choices have you made? And we just started making a list of them. So every day we'd go out there, based on the standards we looked at the previous day, start making this long list of decisions that we're going to choose from these to make our choose your own adventure story later. So they could see the tie between the content and the final product. We didn't want that to get lost in the shuffle. And almost all these standards, they had to do a writing piece for me. The cause of World War I, they had to do a presentation on Google, and they had to do a picture, and then we used Maina for the main cause. They had to explain it and give an example, picture and example. So it was kind of visual and also writing in there. Domestic impact was just a written piece. I gave them the outline. And then on this day, we did the red dot game. So this is a simulation where everybody gets a card, and most of them have a black dot, and there's a few red dots, and they had to make the biggest groups they could with all black dots. So if you have a black dot, your job is to make sure there's no one with a red dot in your group. If you're a red dot, the goal is to infiltrate one of the big groups, and that's mounted on the Red Scare. So we did that simulation to help them see the Red Scare and see how easy it was to get hysteria going around as I would go to the class and go, hey, that person's got a red dot, just making up stuff. Try and get them riled up with each other. So we're doing content, we're doing simulation, doing stuff. They're working on it in the middle of the project. Next day, every day we're doing storyboard, and then we're doing different things. So this one, they look at domestic changes, and then we looked at Sacco and Vanzetti. We use Howard's Name graphic novel, so that's one of the resources we use. So we pull out, have them read part of that as a class, and we discuss it. So they're not just sitting there working for 2 hours, because that doesn't usually work. You know, they get tired. So we introduce materials, activities, and things into it to keep them going on the standards, but also give them some structure and help them when they're missing certain parts of the content they need. This one, it says Treaty of the Versailles Workshop. This is a PowerPoint presentation that I could get up and teach, but I didn't. So I just gave them the presentation and say, hey, you figure it out yourself. If you have questions, I'll do it, but no one wanted the workshop. They were able just to do it themselves instead of wasting their time listening to me. I did point out there's some nice maps in there, and I showed a couple things, but basically put it on there. So giving them some links and some direction in the research there. They're now working on the cause of World War II.
What do you mean when you say figure it out and do it? You just mean just watch it?
It's a Google presentation with slides and text and stuff in it. I mean, traditional teacher would get up and teach it, lecture. Instead of that, I didn't make this one. I found it online, and I just tell them that, hey, found these online, guys. This shows you, gives you a really good description of Treaty of Versailles. See these slides right here? You should read them and understand them. And there were the slides that showed the British point of view versus the French point of view versus the American point of view. And so, rather than me teach it, figure it out yourselves, and if you got questions, come ask me. So it's putting more of the research onto them, but not leaving them lost. Let's see, there's some stuff in the agenda that's messing me up because it's from other classes. So, this one was an Assassination Workshop. So, I did my first assessment on the cause of World War I, and I quickly realized they all could tell me that Duke Ferdinand got assassinated, which is wonderful, but no one was explaining to me why that was the start of the war, which is really important. So they're missing that, so I did a workshop explaining this, because as I did the assessment, there's a gap in their learning. So this is me reacting to their gaps and doing a little mini workshop, and then adding some questions on there that we did a group discussion on. I also have a card sort in here, where I gave them on notebook cards all these different causes of World War II, and they had to sort them and find the relationships between them. It's a great activity. It's one where there's no right and wrong answers, but it helps them talk, move, and look at them. So you can see there's all kinds of hands-on things. There's mini lectures in here. There's simulations. All these things are in the middle of the project. More resources pretty much here, mostly workday. I'm going to go faster. This is the day we spent on the Japanese internment. And in this particular day, the site called Japanese Internment is this wonderful online resource that we want all the students to use, because it's just so good that you're not going to find anything better. So we directed them all to go through and do this, and then they had to write a journal prompt. Also, there's a wonderful wrap here that goes through it all, that students really like that and get stuff out of that. This was a day they really liked. We looked at all the racist propaganda against Japanese, looked at songs. You're a sap and slap the dirty little Jap were racist popular songs in America. And then we watched a Popeye episode based off it. And then we also looked at some Rosie the Riveter and a Disney propaganda film for saving oil so it can be used for bombs. So we use lots of different resources there instead of just having them read everything, because they get fatigued with that. This one we looked at a bunch of primary sources, and we asked them, should we have dropped the bomb? So we looked at resources from Truman himself, we looked at leaflets, we looked at pictures, and we looked at the Peace Museum over in Hiroshima, and we read the scientists' petition to Truman. So we kind of had resources that both supported and opposed dropping the bomb, and then we were able to discuss it and take their own viewpoint. And in the end, they had a journal, which was the English part of it. This week then, we started wrapping up the standards, and now we started doing things like storyboard. So now they had to take this list of all the decisions that we were making every day, turn it into a storyboard, and we spent at least a day doing the storyboard. Next day, we spent this is where the agenda ends, because we just kinda, this is where we're kinda winging it, because it depends on where the students went. So the next day they picked roles, and they all picked a different topic and role that they were doing, whether they were gonna be a writer, director, editor. Students started writing, this is where they kinda went into the final product stage of it, and we spent the next 2 weeks going through the product stages of it. And one of the things that was nice about this project, we had some students who weren't done with their standards, or their standards weren't up to passing. They got to sit in the room and work on their standards until they got caught up, while the rest of the students got to work on the fun part of the project. So it was a little incentive for them, and really our grades are better than usual, because some of them spent almost 2 weeks trying to get caught up, where normally they would just drown, and it'd be hard to get them caught up. So that worked out kinda good. And hopefully in the next project, we told them you're not gonna have this, that they'll start to do their work on time. Again, working on agency. Does that help?